are we starting off then?
The reshuffle and the Telegraph expected tomorrow, and the Telegraph go on. Ben Wallace, the Defence Secretary, an ally of Boris Johnson, is fighting for his political life. He's not going to a conference in Munich on security. He was due to attend. Some suggestions is Anne-Marie Trevelyan, his deputy, may be promoted above him. He just sounded like he wanted to stay today, although he wasn't certain about it, former army officer. It's quite interesting because the main jobs we don't think are going to change: the Home Secretary, Foreign Secretary and Chancellor, so it won't be a huge reshuffle, but nevertheless, is Boris Johnson going to start eating some of his own, sacrificing some of his support?
Because this was all supposed to be merging departments and shaking it all up. They've decided to, keep it fairly steady. Some question about some of the women who might go. Is that justified, do you think?
Well, this is Boris Johnson, who did boast that he once ran a feminocracy when he was at City Hall. Let you Google what that means. A champion of feminists everywhere. We were there were obviously all these concerns that all the top women were going to be marched out of their jobs. And as Kevin says, perhaps the suggestion is that Anne-Marie Trevelyan would replace Ben Wallace. I mean, I was kind of surprised because I thought he did a great job handling the Qasem Soleimani assassination at the beginning of January. He was the one who went out and did all the he really fronted that kind of publicly while Boris Johnson stayed in the Caribbean on holiday. So I thought he was an ally, and I'm kind of surprised that he's been lined up to potentially be marched out of the cabinet tomorrow.
He is an adult, Ben Wallace.
Yeah.
And you couldn't say that about...
He can walk on his own. Oh, no.
Yeah, you wouldn't say that about him all, but he was on the losing side of the Huawei battle over the Chinese telecoms company. Maybe that's blotted his copybook with Johnson.
And what everyone's still trying to work out is what sort of Boris Johnson will emerge as leader. Will it be the sort of mayoral libertarian, or will it be the Brexit-supporting populist, or whatever he might describe himself as? And whether the cabinet reshuffle will shape what he wants his government to look like to people.
Yeah, well, he's marching some Brexiteers out, isn't he? People like Andrea Leadsom, Jacob Rees-Mogg is potentially up for the chop as well. People that had previously been on that.
We don't yet know.
We don't know. We don't know. That was just.
But they'll be having a nervous night.
Potentially being replaced by some people who voted to remain. So it does suggest that this kind of, this sort of cabinet of the ERG that we would have had to have had before he had that mega majority doesn't seem to apply anymore.
Yes, and obviously newspapers love a good rumour in the back room, don't they? Whether there are rumours between his partner Carrie Symonds and Dominic Cummings.
Well, the Guardian
and the allegiances.
Absolutely, the Guardian have picked up on the Dominic Cummings role, saying it's actually the reshuffle won't have his imprint on it in the way it was thought it was going to be. And
the Guardian.
There it is down on the bottom right. Yeah, less revolutionary than that of his key advisor Dominic Cummings to say. Of course, Cummings also opposed HS2, the high-speed expansion, which is going ahead. We saw him coming out sort of being a bit bonkers yesterday about PJ Marks and cartoons when he was asked. I mean, he is... Anyway, he's very much a creature.
That footballer who talks about sardines.
Eric Cantona.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. But it reminds me of that.
He's got such an establishment background, Cummings, sort of Durham School, which is a very different northeast to the one I'm from, and then Oxford, and married to an heiress who has a castle in the family and so on, but he likes to pose himself as an outsider. But he does seem to be somebody who just likes to, shout and bawl and abuse people. But has he really got a grip? Because there is a lot of reports, and you hear them from people, from ministers, and you hear them from MPs who think he's just creating problems. And often governments with big majorities destroy themselves from the inside. And Cummings, his grip his power probably isn't as great as we've given him credit for. Yes, it was in the referendum 2016. Yes, he did coin that slogan, "Get Brexit Done." But of course, the policy that got most cut through in the election from the Tories was the building 40 new hospitals, which is a lie because it's only 6. that was.
Do you think that really was?
That got through. Yeah, really? Absolutely. Labour had nothing to match it. Okay. Absolutely nothing.
Interesting. I love a reshuffle. I don't know if you do, but we'll see all the people marching backwards and forwards or coming in the back. Who knows? We will find out.
All the power dressing.
Yes, exactly. Let's move on to the Daily Mail. Camilla, my crusade for abused women. Tell us about this. What looks like a campaign then.
Well, this is. We were both saying this is an incredible story that the Mail, that Rebecca and Dish at the Mail have got hold of. An exclusive interview of Camilla. There are some we are all very familiar with them. The very depressing statistics about how 2 women a week are killed by a current or former partner. And that's probably just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to those statistics. So for the royal family to kind of be aligning with this huge problem, domestic abuse, coercive control, I think is incredible. And this is a really personal account. Two of her friends that were touched, that have been affected by domestic violence. This is gritty, and it's actually a kind of issue that really affects people. And isn't this the whole point of the royal family?
Yeah, I think it's actually an interview most papers would want, in all honesty. I did wonder why the Mail recently were being rather nice about Prince Charles and William and Kate. I suspect they knew this was coming and they were currying favour to land it. But that figure they have, 2 million women report domestic abuse each year, is absolutely incredible. And you think that figure, two women a week killed by a current or former partner, it's about 100 a year. Think of all the coverage that is given to terrorism. Two people have been killed recently by terrorists, a number of others actually injured. But the death toll is so much higher from other issues, including domestic violence, which you don't often see because it's behind closed doors. It doesn't make the headlines. And if you're going to have a royal family, because I'd get shot as a lot of them. Nevertheless, if you're going to have them, you might as well have them at tackling issues that matter. The younger one's mental health. Yes. If she's going to do domestic violence, that's got to be good.
And concern about police not responding quickly enough in terms of the number of complaints women make about a partner, and also the funding for women's refuges. But is there a slight cynicism about this, that given the headlines we've had on Mexit, on Prince Andrew, on Philip and Autumn splitting up as well, that this is in a sense the royal family trying to seize an agenda of their own at this point?
Yeah, they want to change the narrative, don't they? Look, Prince Andrew's still a terrible scandal.
Absolutely.
And the allegations of sex with trafficked young women, which he denies, his friendship with a convicted, now dead paedophile, that's not going to go away. The FBI still want to speak to him. Harry and Meghan is slightly different, but they were going to be the future of the royal family, or at least part of the future, and they seem to want to abdicate and go off. That's not going to go away. So yes, maybe the timing is they're trying to get on the front foot a bit more positive publicity. So we can see that, but nevertheless, it is an important issue.
She doesn't talk to the press, does she? She doesn't talk to the media.
She's also friendly to journalists.
Not
me, I don't move in those circles. You may be unsurprised to know, but other journalists who say if you ever meet her at a reception or anywhere, she is chatty and approachable.
Let's move on to The Guardian, shall we? The UK prepares for more coronavirus cases after the first diagnosis in London.
Yes, so it continues, and we were speaking about this before we came out here. I mean, we still need to call for a little bit of calm, don't we? I mean, the super spreader, which is a terrible nickname to be given, isn't it? But Steve Walsh is fine. Everyone that was quarantined when they came back from China have all been released, have all been quarantined and are well and healthy. We've got kids not being sent to school. The Mobile World Congress, which is this huge kind of tech event in Barcelona, has been cancelled. I think we still need, I appreciate this is obviously serious, but, I think kind of kids not going to school and, people wearing masks on the tube, I don't think we're quite there yet. Do you agree?
Yeah, and it's interesting, The Guardian, which often on these stories can be sort of, keep calm and carry on, is slightly more alarmist than some others today, rather than saying that everyone who came back, as you say, is given the all clear. Well, the super spreader Walsh is given the all clear. The Guardian is kind of pushing it forward.
But there are reports from China about a number of question raising in terms of the data.
Of
one of which is that if people are dying before they get tested, they're not classed as a coronavirus death.
Yeah.
And secondly is that if you are tested positive for coronavirus, the suggestion has been, and yet you are asymptomatic, you're not classed as a coronavirus case. Now that is very worrying, and that would mean that the numbers are, well, the suggestion was between 10 and 25% higher than they are being reported.
Yeah, China is a massive country, 1.3 billion people,
right.
so the numbers.
And Wuhan itself is enormous.
Was it 10 million plus?
Yeah, I think it was 11, wasn't it?
Yeah, the figures are still relatively small, and actually, I think in the UK, the authorities have seemed to be doing the job of isolating people, tracking them down, who they've been in contact with, and I think instead of worrying and taking your kid out of school, just send your kid to school. I mean, it's going to be safer than having them in the house.
Yes, except that isolation is one of the only means of so far.
But that's if there's a case. When there's not a case in a school, I mean, some people are just panicking, aren't they?
Yeah.
And it's a bit. It is just calm down.
Well, the World Health Organization has used some quite, I mean, you might say inflammatory language, but some stern warnings from the WHO.
I think where it is and you have somebody, isolate them, have them treated, yes, but the rest of us just carry on. Just do what you normally do, go to the football, go to the pub, watch the pictures, all that. Do it.
Keep calm and carry on.
Yeah.
You heard it here first. Don't forget, Kate Burley will be back bright and early tomorrow morning, as well as the very latest on the cases of COVID-19 here in the UK. She will be previewing the cabinet reshuffle with, among others, the former Education Secretary, Justine Greening. That is Kate Burley at breakfast, live from Westminster from 7 o'clock in the morning. Coming up, though, Bernie Sanders wins the New Hampshire primary by a whisker, but is he the right person to take on Donald Trump? Back with that in just a minute. Well, welcome back. You're watching the press preview with me this evening. Kevin Maguire and Becca Hudson. Welcome back to both of you. Let's go to the Metro, shall we? Corbyn versus Johnson on what subject?
The deportations of the Jamaicans, with the flight number went.
The
Most of
virtually
them
empty
didn't.
flight.
Yeah, most of them didn't. I thought it was quite brave of him to take up this at Prime Minister's questions, because public opinion is kind of very hostile. Everybody should be deported. You're not British, you're Jamaican, go back, you committed a crime. But he was challenging some of the preconceptions put around by Downing Street and the government, that they're all rapists and murderers. Now some are, and I say, right, kick them out. But he took up the case of somebody who came to Britain when they were 5, was groomed by a county lines drug gang, went to prison in the 5 years since been out, has not reoffended, and he compared that to, and he made it, meaning Boris Johnson, a young boy, comes from the US, dabbles in Class A drugs, which Johnson has, then he's admitted it.
Okay,
You're all
fine.
right. You're all right. He said he wasn't quite sure whether it was really cocaine or not. He got around it like that. And then conspired to beat up a journalist. Should that person be deported back to the US? It was like, is there one treatment of black boys, one treatment of white boys? Now, the cost of two are not similar, because Johnson's not been convicted of...
And he's a British passport holder as well.
Yeah, absolutely. But there is
Although he was born in New York, wasn't he?
He was, yeah, but he is British. But for instance, the man who was groomed, Corbyn said, in county lines drug gangs. Well, he was supplying people like Boris Johnson and Michael Gove, who's admitted using cocaine.
Yeah. Interesting.
It was great to see Jeremy Corbyn kind of turn up at PMQs. I think it's been kind of boring for a while, so it was quite nice to see him deliver a bit of a punchy blow. And then for Boris Johnson to kind of appoint himself as sort of the protector of the Windrush generation by accusing Jeremy Corbyn of besmirching their reputation, I thought was kind of rich, considering he was part of the government that was responsible for the hostile environment in the first place.
The Windrush report isn't out yet, but one of the recommendations, and then to automatic deportation if you have more than 12-month conviction. I can see that if you've come to Britain and you've been here most of your life, you came as a kid. You might, even if you're not here legally, now I would say you become our problem. You've got to be dealt with. That's not to say crimes.
Is that what they're trying to get rid now, do you think?
Get them out.
Well,
well, I think the court upheld you 12 months automatic deportation in law, but doesn't mean you have to do it.
Let's go to the US election, shall we? Or at least the Democratic presidential candidate process as they try to choose it. The comparisons with the UK are becoming quite large, are they not? With Bernie Sanders, left-leaning, against a blonde bombshell in the name of Trump. It's all quite similar, really. But anyway, so he claims victory in New Hampshire, and on they go.
And so where's Joe Biden? I thought it was his to lose.
He's lost it.
He's lost it, hasn't he? He had the halo effect of being kind of Obama's vice president. I mean, he came fourth. Pretty depressing. And Bernie Sanders, who I guess there are some comparisons to be drawn between him and Jeremy Corbyn, beat Pete Buttigieg.
Mayor Pete.
Yeah, much easier. And to the forefront. So he's kind of also elbowed Elizabeth Warren, who was kind of occupying that centre, that far left in American terms, position. And, says that this is the beginning of the end of Donald Trump. Which is punchy and ambitious.
Is he unelectable, do you think, in a race against Donald Trump, as some are suggesting?
I don't think he's unelectable. I think Trump will be hard to beat, because
whoever the candidate
Yeah, but, well,
is.
presidents get second terms. You've got to go back to the elder George Bush, who lost in '94 for the last time he did that. Clinton got 2 terms. The other Bush got 2 terms. Obama got 2 terms. You would think he's got to be the favourite, but no. But his socialism. He's not going to nationalise he's not going to Apple or whatever. It's all about. And he puts it in the language of healthcare.
Yeah.
Everyone should be able to go to college. Everyone who works should get a.
He wants to
get a
pay for
living
people to go
wage.
to college, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And he wants to.
Yeah, great.
The bills are enormous.
Yeah, he wants to invest in people in education. It'll be good for America. So I think it's there. But you do wonder about Bloomberg coming up, who is spending a fortune.
Yeah.
It's coming up in the polls. Is it Super Tuesday coming up a little lot? And whether he could do it. I mean, there's Mayor Pete. I'm going to stick to it. Mayor
stick
Pete.
to that.
Bit easier.
And Sanders.
Let's move to our last story. Joe Biden headed off to South Carolina, I think, so he thinks he's still in the race at the very least. So down the bottom there, coronavirus kissing ban for Valentine's. This is when we're told not even to do the continental kiss at the moment, aren't we, because of this?
We've really enjoyed this. Is when kind of being British and aloof.
I thought you meant
Perhaps-
anyway.
No.
Please, madam. Yeah. I'm a northern man, though. Yeah.
There's
With
been
a
no
waistcoat
air
on.
I mean,
whatsoever.
how do you do?
Exactly. So the kind of haughty fruit from your review, and exactly, is what they're encouraging. We should not be hugging. We shouldn't be kissing to prevent the spread of coronavirus.
We'll talk more about that at 11:30 when we see you again. Becca and he thinks he's still in the race at the very least. So down the bottom there, coronavirus kissing ban for Valentine's Day. This is when we're told not even to do the continental kiss at the moment, aren't we, because of this?
We've really enjoyed this. Is when kind of being British and aloof.
I thought you meant
Perhaps-
anyway.
No.
Please, madam. Yeah. I'm a northern man, though. Yeah.
There's been
With a
no
waistcoat
air
on.
I mean,
whatsoever.
how do you do?
Exactly. So the kind of haughty fruit from your review, and exactly, is what they're encouraging. We should not be hugging. We shouldn't be kissing to prevent the spread of coronavirus.
We'll talk more about that at 11:30 when we see you again. Becca and Kevin, digital presenter for the Daily Express, Becca Hudson, and the associate editor of the Daily Mirror, Kevin Maguire. That is coming up.
It's an important job. But no, she's on her way out. Others mentioned.
That's Ben Wallace.
Ben Wallace, there we are. Yeah, look, doesn't look very happy, does he? I mean, mind you, he's a tight guy who doesn't normally look very happy.
Yeah.
So it's just.
These pictures could be from ages ago.
Yeah, there's a black door, and there he's,
a black door.
there he's got it. If we're talking to the pictures.
And talking about the previous.
Oh look, there we are.
And so Andrea Litton is one of those you think possibly may not survive. Is that right? Or-
I mean, I wish
Got your
someone.
pink jacket on. Do you got the same shot?
She's absolutely my style icon. Thanks for
Yeah.
Thanks for noticing. I mean, I wish someone would decide. I mean, is this going to be kind of a feminocracy, which is what Boris Johnson so proudly oversaw when he was in City Hall, or are we going to see some of the top women being marched out of the cabinet tomorrow? We're sort of seeing conflicting reports, aren't we, across the newspapers tomorrow. There were lots of concerns that that this was going to be kind of like a wipeout of female voices, and that Boris Johnson would then be plagued by accusations of sexism. And so we're hearing rumours that, Andrea Leadsom, Theresa Villiers could all be out.
Theresa Coffey.
Theresa
Esther
Coffey.
McVeigh,
Esther
named in
McVeigh.
the Times.
Right.
Yeah.
Then there doesn't seem unanimity here because the Times cabinet women hit hardest in the first Johnson reshuffle, but the Sun take a rather different view, and the Sun say, now somebody's going to be right.
Yeah.
I mean, in a way, they
Yeah, but at least they're different women. That's the point.
well, he could replace. I think he's got 7 out of 22 now. Or he could end up with 7, and maybe some of them are just different, but they're still women. They've got Anne-Marie Trevelyan there.
Mentioned,
Braverman, Julian Keegan, and Geoffrey Cox, the Attorney General. He's out. He's a bloke.
Right.
And we needed one bloke to be out, didn't we?
But the important question is, what do we learn about what Boris Johnson wants to do with his government? What sort of Prime Minister will he be? Which of his leaning policies will it be? Will it be the one that was London Mayor or not? And will we get clues from this or not really? This is a Brexit delivery cabinet, presumably,
We'll look for them. We'll try and make sense of it. He will clearly have a strategy of sorts. Is he going to be his Brexit-y Hezza, as he'd like to be, sort of Michael Heseltine Brexit?
What with Michael Gove, for example?
He's probably one of the most able ministers.
Yeah.
So you would want him, if you've got jobs of implementing anything, you want Gove to do that. So does he leave him at the cabinet office, or does he get him from there, or does he give him something else to do in terms of the trade negotiations? Because he was talking about how there's going to be a friction border with the rest of Europe. So that'll be filling in forms,
Yeah.
paying tariffs. That's going to create havoc, particularly in manufacturing.
And Gove is a purist Brexiteer, isn't he, through and through? So does deserve maybe to be given a
Yeah.
And
broader
somebody's going to
remit.
get HS2, aren't they? The delivery of that.
Oh my goodness, yeah, what a job.
Yeah, it's a dedicated
Someone who's got a job but looks sad as they
Yeah.
come out.
as long as they don't have to go in a bulldozer or something.
Yeah. Well, it starts early tomorrow morning, finished in one day, we're told. Is that right? I don't know if you've heard.
Well, that's what they
heard
say, but
You never know.
it-
Until people refuse it, which is what Jeremy Hunt
Yeah.
did, didn't he?
it's what you find. It can get delayed. Like, of course, if you're a prime minister who's just won an election, you've got an 80-seat majority, you're in a stronger position. But there may be some people who will say, no, I'm not going to that other job. And then do you sack them or do you offer them something else?
Well, Boris Johnson did the biggest one ever, didn't he, after winning the leadership back last summer? So he's not completely opposed to being dramatic, but we think not quite so much tomorrow. Anyway, we will see. To the Daily Mail now. Camilla, my crusade for abused women. An interview, it appears, with the Mail.
Yeah, super Report Access. Camilla, not known for giving interviews to journalists and to newspapers. And this is kind of incredible. This is her aligning with the kind of huge problem and issue we have with domestic violence in this country. The horrific statistics that 2 women are killed every week by a former or current partner, and obviously that's just the ones that are reported and that we know about. And you know, this is kind of what the point of a royal family is, isn't it? To kind of shine a light on kind of actual issues, not sort of donkey sanctuaries and, you know, talking to your plants. This feels actually quite useful and worthwhile. I'm sure even you would agree.
I do, but I'm just thinking, would she be saying this if Prince Andrew hadn't been sacked and wanted by the FBI for questioning, or Meghan and Harry hadn't done a runner to Canada and abdicated? I wonder if they'd be doing it now. But you're quite right. Just as the younger ones have been talking about mental health, good issue to raise. You know, she's right. The hidden shame. You think of the focus on terrorism. 2 people have been killed by terrorists recently. 2 others have been stabbed. So that figure of two women a week by a current or former partner. That's 100 or so people every year. I think there's a mention of 2 million people report domestic abuse. I mean, this is utterly shameful and terrible. So she's going to speak out. It's good to speak out on something that is positive, but I did also wonder why the Mail were being so kind recently to Prince Charles and William and Kate, and I suppose they were courting Clarence House to get the Camilla interview.
It's quite a scoop, isn't it? But it is a reminder. You say this is a great cause, but actually, you know, they are the patron of many, many charities for whom their role is important each time they turn up, whether it be a tree or anything else, isn't it? It just reminds you that the work is important.
Exactly.
Just now lands on fewer people with Meghan and Harry out of the country. Let's move on, shall we, to Harry being linked to Goldman Sachs. Tell us about this one.
Yeah, kind of segues nicely, doesn't it?
Yeah, the Mirror's Royal editor, Russell Myers, had this today, and it's been taken up and it's been followed. And there we go, they've gone off. What are they going to do to cash in on their royal connections? First of all, they turn up at JP Morgan. Now, we don't know, but I bet they were paid for that. And now it looks like Goldman Sachs could be slipping them a
But,
few
but,
bob too.
but this is an unpaid role, isn't it? Guest speakers at Goldman Sachs are understood not to be paid, but it's who you connect with, isn't it?
You probably get generous expense. They want to fly you in a private jet. Eco warriors. Harry and Meghan don't seem averse to private jets, do they?
And how much control could the Queen still have on work like this, do you think?
Less and less.
Less and less.
Yeah. I mean, they'll be joining the likes of Gwyneth Paltrow and David Beckham, who also hold this esteemed position with Goldman Sachs. So I think this is the shape of things to come, isn't it, from Meghan and Harry? You know, is kind of pursuing this high-profile, kind of super elite lifestyle, and kind of aligning themselves with banks. It would appear.
I know. Well, this is where the dosh is. Isn't
This
it?
is
If
the
they're going to go
financial
make it,
independence, that they were talking about.
Yeah, they might do some good with other charities, sort of kids abandoned and so on. This is where they'll cash in. And can you do it as a royal? Can they carry on with this
We'll have to wait and see on that one.
Sussex
won't we, I think?
royal nonsense?
So on reshuffle day, don't forget Kay Burley back in Westminster tomorrow. She will have the very latest on the cases of COVID-19 here in the UK and previewing even the cabinet reshuffle with, among others, the former Education Secretary Justine Greening. That's Kay Burley live from Westminster from 7 a.m. She might be previewing, whatever the word is.
Are you all right?
No, I'm not. No, it's too late now.
Oh,
isn't it? Anyway, still to come. Are social media firms having it all their own way when it comes to accountability? Back with that and more in just a moment. harmful content on the internet and what to do about it, which takes us to the Eye, which looks like a backfiring policy, doesn't it?
Yeah. So I think kind of widely acknowledged that these sort of various social networks, whether it's Facebook or Google or your favourite TikTok, I hear you're big on that.
Wherever it is.
There's a failure to protect their users, protect your data. The kind of content that you can access on that is super harmful. Bad diet culture, self-harm. I mean, and then obviously these platforms can be used to groom and bully people. So there needs to be some sort of regulation. And it seems like kind of at the final hour, our government has slightly fallen short of its promises to kind of heavily regulate these platforms. You seem surprised.
I know, it's interesting. The reality doesn't look like it's going to live up to the spin. I know, God, that's never happened before with any government. But no, but they brief the policy in advance. It's all going to be very tough. It's a crackdown. They get the headlines.
Yeah.
And then when it's looked at, it doesn't quite live up to it.
So what were they promising and what seems to be missing then?
Putting people in the dock and possibly in prison,
So
really.
criminal investigations
Yeah.
into not tackling it.
Exactly. So Ofcom have been kind of empowered to sort of manage this, but obviously that will require Ofcom having a huge injection of cash and resource and expertise.
Yeah.
You know, we're talking about going up against some of the biggest companies in the world, so they need some sort of teeth and a little bit, you know, to kind of make these rules that they want to enforce enforceable. And yet, with no kind of opportunity for sort of criminal prosecution, I'm not quite sure why anyone's going to listen.
I know, Google and Facebook, in the end, they always like to present themselves as rather doing good and liberal and being really nice. They are ruthless, profit-making US corporations, avoiding whatever tax, whatever responsibility, whatever regulation they can. And if Ofcom is going to take them on and somehow create some order in this Wild West, it's going to have a lot of resources.
Yeah.
It's going to have a lot of powers. And in some ways, it's easier to do, rather than one country on its own. Just say if we were a member of, off the top of my head, a 28-nation block of countries in Europe, might be a lot easier.
Oh, don't go there.
Short massage. Okay.
Let's go to the US election, shall we? Obviously, the process to find the Democratic candidate well underway now after the disaster of Iowa. We've had New Hampshire and Bernie Sanders coming out on top.
After Iowa, yeah.
Which raises the prospect of a similar rerun of what the UK had in some minor respects.
Possibly as Trump as Boris Johnson, with probably worse.
He wouldn't necessarily like that comparison.
No, and then Bernie Sanders, I suppose, is a Jeremy Corbyn. Doesn't mean the outcome will be the same. But no, he's certainly ahead, although Sanders did less well in New Hampshire than he did last time, which should concern him.
And he's a neighbouring state, isn't
in
he?
Vermont, yeah. But there are some in the Democrat Party who are trying to stop him because they see him as too left-wing, although his socialism can be very appealing when he spells it out. Everybody should have the right to go to college, everybody should have the right to healthcare, everybody who works should have a right to a wage. What's wrong with any?
And he's energetic, isn't he, in the hustings?
Yeah, he had a little heart problem, but he's got a big base, he's got a lot of supporters, he's got a lot of money. I'd like to see him go head-to-head with Trump, but Mayor Pete, I won't bother with his surname because
You're going to have to learn it eventually.
just kind of rise. Joe Biden's just faded.
So he came fifth,
Yeah,
didn't he?
I mean, I thought that's the story. Like, Joe Biden, it wasn't his to win. You know, he was the vice president. He's got the halo effect of being part of the Obama administration. Came fifth. I mean, outmaneuvered by Elizabeth Warren, a woman who can't decide if she's Native American or not. I mean, it's quite remarkable. It seems that the wheels have come off that campaign.
And he got it down to South Carolina even before the results came in. Actually, he obviously was warned that
You've got to,
Yeah.
you've got to look positive. But coming up is Bloomberg, who is just billions and billions and billions. Can he end up just buying the Democratic Party?
and you'd be two billionaires against each other. Could all be fascinating, all interesting. Now then, let's go to the problem of being next door to a massive art gallery with a viewing platform looking down on your really expensive flats.
I mean, isn't this delicious? Yes, so we're all fully aware that if you stand on the Tate viewing platform, you can unfortunately see into the very exclusive
This is the
Riverside
Tate
flats.
Modern in
Tate
London.
Modern in London. You can see into the very exclusive Riverside flats belonging to some well-heeled people, including this architect, Lindsay Archihart, who was veiled in her bid to get the Tate Modern to put up, was it screens, or she wanted to close the viewing platform because people can see into her.
I mean, you get
flat.
quite a good view, don't you, to be fair, if you're looking at these pictures?
You do.
Yeah,
I mean,
I've got some sympathy for her, but I think she's going to have to buy some neck curtains.
Yeah.
You can twitch them now and again. I know it's
I'm sure she can-
unfortunate, but...
You buy a raised level flat to get a good view and you have to have a net
Well,
curtain.
you build the the Tate Modern as an art gallery and a viewing platform, and what, you're going to say you can't stand on it and look out? I think,
She does.
There's a conflict, isn't it? It's not really a right to peep into her flat, but should those householders' rights go over the rights of thousands, tens of thousands of people who go to one of the great London landmarks?
We'll see if she'll appeal, shall we? Becca, Kevin, thank you both very much indeed. Thank you.
Thank you.